Welcome to English Stories from English Speeches, a place to relax, listen, and be inspired by the lives of extraordinary people. Today, imagine a young man in saffron robes standing before the world, his voice calm but powerful, his eyes filled with purpose. That man is Swami Vivekananda. In the next few minutes, we'll journey through his life, from his childhood in India to that defining moment on the stage in Chicago. You'll discover powerful lessons on courage, discipline, resilience, speaking your truth, and living for others. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a story told with heart, as if a wise mentor were walking beside you, sharing insights that still matter today. So sit back, listen, and let yourself be moved. Swami Vivekananda was born as Narendranath Datta in 1863 in Calcutta, India. From a young age, Narendra was exceptionally curious and bright, the kind of child who excelled at his studies but was just as interested in music, sports, and wrestling. More importantly, he had a generous heart. One small childhood incident foretold the compassion that would define him. One day, his mother asked him to fetch a knife. Little Narendra brought it to her, but he carefully grasped the sharp blade in his own hand and offered her the handle. He didn't want his mother to get hurt. Seeing this, his mother smiled with tears in her eyes. She told him that if he could be so thoughtful in small things, he was destined to care for others in bigger ways too. In that simple act, we see how kindness and empathy took root early in his life. Sometimes greatness shows itself in the smallest actions. A caring heart and an eager mind, even in childhood, can grow into a beacon of light for the world. As Narendra grew into his late teens, his curiosity turned to life's ultimate questions. He hungered to know God and the meaning of existence. He would ask learned people in Calcutta, "Have you ever seen God?" A bold and sincere question. Most could not answer to his satisfaction. Their silence or abstract replies left him restless, but he did not stop seeking. This relentless quest led him to a simple temple garden on the outskirts of the city, where he met a saintly man named Ramakrishna. In their first meetings, Narendra was skeptical. Here was a poor, uneducated temple priest who spoke of visions and divine motherly love, ideas that the college-educated Narendra initially dismissed as imagination. Still, something about Ramakrishna's genuine bliss and fatherly affection drew the young man back. One day, gathering his courage, Narendra asked Ramakrishna the same burning question. "Have you seen God?" Without hesitation, Ramakrishna replied, "Yes, I have. I see God as clearly as I see you, only in a much deeper sense." Narendra was astonished. It was the first time anyone had given him a direct answer. In that moment, something shifted in his soul. He realized that truth can come from unexpected places and people, that wisdom isn't always dressed in prestige or academia. Sometimes it is found in simplicity and sincerity. The young seeker found his teacher. Stay open and fearless in your search for truth. When you truly seek, the answers often appear, sometimes from the most humble teacher, and they can change the course of your life. Just as Narendra's spiritual journey was unfolding, life tested him harshly. His father, once a wealthy lawyer, died suddenly, plunging the family into bankruptcy and hardship. Overnight, the comfortable life he knew evaporated. Creditors pounded at their door, and there were days when his family had little to eat. Imagine the weight on his young shoulders. He was still in college, yet now responsible for his mother and siblings, with no money and no job prospects. In despair, Narendra's faith wavered. He even questioned the existence of God during this dark period. But rather than give in to hopelessness, he turned to his spiritual mentor for help. He asked Ramakrishna to pray to the Divine Mother, Goddess Kali, whom Ramakrishna worshipped, to relieve his family's suffering. The saint gently refused and said, "Why don't you go to the temple and pray yourself?" Narendra was desperate enough to try. Late one night, he entered the temple of Kali, determined to beg the goddess for financial help. Yet, standing before the serene idol, his heart overflowed with a different prayer. Instead of money or food, he prayed for pure wisdom and devotion. things of the spirit, not of the world. Only after leaving the shrine did he realize he hadn't asked for a single rupee or loaf of bread. He went back 2 more times, intent on asking for worldly aid, but each time the words wouldn't come. He could only pray for faith and inner strength. In the end, he understood this was the real answer to his troubles. He came home strangely at peace. That night, Narendra awakened to a new resolve. He would trust in God and dedicate himself to a higher purpose, and somehow his family's needs would be taken care of. Indeed, this moment marked the beginning of his spiritual life. When life brings you to your knees, consider what you truly need. Instead of only asking for life to be easier, ask for the strength, wisdom, and courage to meet your challenges. Vivekananda's hardship taught him that by seeking spiritual strength first, he could handle whatever material problems came his way. Having passed through the fire of hardship, Narendra was ready to renounce his old life. In 1886, after the death of his beloved Guru Ramakrishna, he and a small band of fellow disciples took formal vows as monks, pledging to lead lives of renunciation, truth, and service. Narendra received the monastic name Swami Vivekananda, and at just 23 years old, he became the leader of this young brotherhood. They moved into a crumbling house on the outskirts of Calcutta, the Baranagar math, with no income and no possessions but their robes and faith. Those were tough yet golden days. The monks survived by begging for rice and vegetables in the neighborhood, and they shared everything like a true family. Despite the hunger and cold nights, their spirits burned bright. Every morning before dawn, Vivekananda would rouse his brothers at 3 a.m. to meditate and pray together in the quiet darkness. They would sit for hours in meditation, sometimes so absorbed that they forgot the outside world entirely. By day, they studied sacred texts and sang devotional songs to keep their minds uplifted. By evening, they would discuss lofty ideas and also how to practically help the poor around them, fulfilling their guru's teaching that service to man is service to God. It was a life of severe discipline, but it was also filled with an intense joy and camaraderie. Vivekananda's presence was both commanding and caring. He pushed himself and everyone to live up to the highest ideals, but also encouraged them when they were down. His time at the monastery shows that true discipline isn't a punishment, it's a form of love. Love for a goal, love for something higher in yourself. By giving up comfort and embracing a strict routine, these young men built inner strength and character. In our own way, when we cultivate discipline in our lives, whether in study, work, or spiritual practice, we prepare ourselves for great achievements. It may require sacrifice, but Vivekananda's life reminds us that such sacrifice can lead to a profound sense of freedom and purpose. After a few years, Vivekananda felt a calling to leave the monastery's shelter and walk among the people of India as a wandering monk. In 1888, with nothing but a staff, a water bowl, and a couple of books in his bundle, he set out on foot across the length and breadth of India. For 5 years, he trekked through scorching plains, dense jungles, and snow-capped mountains. He slept under the stars, or in small huts and temples when kindly strangers offered shelter. Often, he had to beg for his daily meal. Some days he went hungry, other days a villager's simple charity filled his belly. This was not just a physical journey, but a journey of the heart. As he moved through city and village, he came face to face with his motherland, the scholars in ancient holy cities, the peasants and laborers toiling in fields, the rajas in their palaces, and the beggars on the streets. He listened to their struggles and their hopes. He saw how India's people, rich in spirituality, were suffering under poverty and social injustice. Each encounter deepened his compassion. In the suffering of others, he found his mission: to uplift the people, to spread education, and to remind everyone of their inner divine strength. But this journey also tested Swamiji's, as he was now affectionately called, personal courage in unexpected ways. One famous incident happened in the ancient city of Varanasi. Vivekananda was crossing a narrow path by a temple when a troop of large wild monkeys appeared. The monkeys in that area were known to be aggressive, and they began to clatter and chase after him, baring their teeth. At first, Vivekananda tried to dodge them. He picked up his pace, even started to run, heart pounding as the monkeys got closer, nipping at his heels. Suddenly, an old sadhu, holy man standing nearby, shouted out to him, "Stop! Face the brutes!" Startled, Vivekananda halted and turned around. He stood tall and with a firm gaze looked directly at the screeching monkeys. The monkeys, surprised by this change, froze and then backed off. In a few moments, the hostile horde scattered, leaving him alone and amazed. Vivekananda took a deep breath as the realization dawned on him. In that small drama lay a great truth. Face the brutes, he would later recall. Face the terrible. Face it boldly. The hardships of life fall back when we cease to flee before them. He had learned that running from fear only makes it chase you harder, but when you confront your fears bravely, they shrink away. This lesson became a cornerstone of his teaching. Never be cowed down by fear, whether it's fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or fear of what others might say. If you stand your ground with courage, those fears lose their power. Swami Vivekananda continued his journey with a new spring in his step, knowing that whatever challenges came, he would face them head-on. We all have monkeys on our trail at times, problems or anxieties snapping at our heels. Vivekananda's experience urges us not to run away. If we pause, turn around, and face our difficulties, we often find they aren't as mighty as we imagined. Courage is not about never feeling afraid. It's about not letting fear control you. When you confront your fears, you take away their momentum and you empower yourself to move forward. Swami Vivekananda's travels eventually ignited a bold vision in him. He felt he must carry the wisdom of India to the wider world and also seek ideas and help from abroad to address the poverty in his homeland. In 1893, an opportunity arose. The World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago, USA, was calling for speakers from all faiths. At that time, it was unimaginable for a young, unknown monk from colonial India to stand among learned Western scholars. Yet, with unshakable determination, Vivekananda decided to go. It was not an easy journey. He had to persuade patrons to fund his trip, endure long sea voyages, and then navigate a foreign land. Legend says that when he first arrived in Chicago, he faced prejudice and even moments of near starvation as he struggled to find his footing, but fate had bigger plans for him. On September 11th, 1893, the Grand Hall of the Parliament was filled with thousands of people and representatives from many religions. Vivekananda, in his orange robes and turban, waited nervously for his turn to speak. He had prepared notes, but when he looked at them, he felt they were too formal. He decided to speak from his heart. Stepping up to the podium, he gazed at the curious American audience. Remembering his own universal love for humanity, he gently bowed and began with a simple greeting. Sisters and brothers of America. For a moment, there was stunned silence, and then the entire hall erupted in applause. Those 5 words had cast a spell. The crowd of 7,000 rose to their feet, clapping and cheering for nearly 2 minutes straight. Why such a reaction? Because in that address, he did not see them as strangers or ladies and gentlemen, but as family. In a time of divisions, his warm, inclusive words touched their hearts. When silence returned, Vivekananda continued to speak, thanking the young nation of America on behalf of the most ancient order of monks in the world. He quoted from Hindu scriptures about the acceptance of all religions, sharing a vision where all paths lead to the same truth. His voice was deep, his words sincere. He spoke of tolerance and universal brotherhood, of the need for religious harmony and an end to bigotry. The audience was entranced. Here was a message of unity at a gathering often marked by doctrinal debates. That day, Vivekananda became a star. Newspapers described him as an orator by divine right and the standout figure of the parliament. Imagine the inner journey of that moment. Just a few years earlier, he was an unknown monk wandering on foot. Now he had found his public voice and it resonated around the globe. But Vivekananda did not bask in celebrity for its own sake. He saw this fame as a chance to spread his message further. Over the next several years, he traveled across the United States and Europe, speaking in packed halls and small gatherings alike. He founded Vedanta centers in New York and San Francisco, teaching Eastern spiritual practices to Western audiences. Through all this, he remained the same humble monk, often using self-deprecating humor and simple language so that everyone could understand profound ideas. Vivekananda's triumph in Chicago teaches us about finding and using our voice. When you speak with genuine feeling and a spirit of goodwill, your words can bridge worlds. He did not speak to impress, he spoke to connect, and that made all the difference. Each of us has something meaningful to share, a perspective, a story, a truth born from our life experiences. If we gather the courage to express it sincerely, without pretension, we too can inspire others. Whether it's speaking up in a meeting, writing a story, or simply telling someone what they mean to you, speak from your heart. Your authentic voice is your power, and it can light up far more lives than you realize. After 4 years abroad, Swami Vivekananda returned to India in 1897 as a national hero. But in his mind, he was simply a servant coming home to serve even more. The youth of India flocked to him, energized by the pride and hope he had stirred. He could have easily rested on his laurels or remained an esteemed teacher in the West, but instead, he channeled all his fame into concrete action for his people. Immediately upon his return, he founded the Ramakrishna Mission in Calcutta, an organization devoted to practical service of the poor and afflicted. This was something radical for a religious monk to do in those days. The mission set up schools, hospitals, and relief centers. It organized efforts to feed the hungry and taught skills to the unemployed. Vivekananda believed that worshipping God meant serving humanity, especially those most in need. He often said, "They alone live who live for others, the rest are more dead than alive." Moved by his words, many of his followers and friends joined hands in this work. It was as if his inspirational words had ignited 1,000 lanterns of goodwill. Even Western disciples, like an Irish lady he named Sister Nivedita, came to India to start schools for girls under his guidance. Everywhere Vivekananda went in India, he continued to give powerful speeches. But now his focus was on awakening his countrymen to their own strength. He urged them to shake off colonial-era inferiority and take pride in their culture, while also embracing modern science and education. He addressed social evils openly. He condemned the rigid caste system that kept people apart and the treatment of women as inferior, insisting that these had to change for India to progress. His words carried the weight of authenticity because everyone knew he practiced what he preached. There's a story of an Englishman who once criticized Swami Vivekananda's appearance. The monk's simple traditional clothes didn't fit the English idea of a gentleman. Swamiji responded with a polite smile and a sharp insight. "In your culture, it is the tailor that makes a man, but in ours, it is character that makes a man." The Englishman fell silent, chastened. Through remarks like this, Vivekananda taught self-respect and the importance of character over outward appearance. Despite his weakening health in later years, Vivekananda poured his remaining energy into guiding others. He trained his brother monks and new volunteers to continue the mission, stressing that they must be lions, strong in body, mind, and spirit, to carry on the work without him. He would say, "Arise, awake, and stop, not till the goal is reached." This call to action, drawn from ancient scripture, was one he used to rouse everyone from complacency. He wanted each person to find their purpose and work diligently towards it. The final and perhaps most important lesson from Vivekananda's life is selfless service. He showed that spirituality is not just found in meditation or words, but in rolling up our sleeves and helping those around us. Whatever our field or faith, we can all adopt this spirit of service. It means seeing others not as competitors or strangers, but as reflections of ourselves. Sisters and brothers, as he would say, when we serve, we grow. When we give, we receive tenfold in joy and meaning. Vivekananda's legacy reminds us that a life dedicated to lifting others will not only transform those we help, it will also transform us into wiser, kinder, and more fulfilled people. Swami Vivekananda lived only 39 years, but in that short span he sparked a spiritual and cultural renaissance that is still unfolding today. In July 1902, not long after he established his mission, Vivekananda passed away quietly. On his last day, he awoke early, meditated for hours, taught some students Sanskrit grammar and yoga philosophy, business as usual for the ever-dutiful teacher, and then, in the evening, while meditating, he breathed his last. Some say he attained Mahasamadhi, a yogi's conscious exit from the body, fulfilling his own prophecy that he wouldn't live to see 40. His death was mourned by many, but his followers took solace imagining their Swamiji merging into the infinite peace he often spoke of. If his life was like a shooting star blazing brilliantly across the sky, his teachings became the starlight that remains. In India, Vivekananda's birthday, January 12th, is celebrated as National Youth Day, a tribute to his enduring inspiration for young people to dream and to serve. The organization he started, the Ramakrishna Mission, continues its humanitarian work, running schools, hospitals, and relief efforts across the world in his name. More than any institution, though, it's his words and example that have seeped into the consciousness of millions. Pick up any of his books or lectures, and you will hear the same encouraging voice that we've heard throughout this story. He tells us that we are all inherently divine, that all powers and potentials are within us. Stand up and express the divinity within you, he urges. He reminds us to be fearless, for fear is death, he warned, and to be unselfish. Expand your heart until it embraces all of humanity. Swami Vivekananda's life is a shining illustration of the harmony between thought and action, faith and work. He meditated like a hermit, but he also planned like a visionary leader. He was a man of deep contemplation who could also laugh, crack jokes, and engage in hearty discussions about everything from philosophy to everyday life. This balance is perhaps why his legacy appeals to so many. He showed that being spiritual doesn't mean withdrawing from the world, but rather engaging with it fully, with compassion and courage. As we reflect on his journey, the curious boy, the earnest seeker, the fiery monk, the eloquent speaker, and the compassionate servant, we realize these are not separate personas, but facets of one integrated life. And in that, we find a mirror for ourselves. We all have the capacity to question like he did, to persevere and discipline ourselves, to face our fears, to find our unique voice, and to devote that voice to something bigger than ourselves. The overarching lesson of Swami Vivekananda's life is that each of us can be a force for good in the world. We don't have to be famous or perfect. We only need to nurture our minds and hearts to be brave in seeking truth, steady in our habits, resilient in adversity, kind in our words, and generous in our actions. Vivekananda once said, "Arise, awake, and stop, not till the goal is reached." That goal, as his life demonstrated, is not just personal success, but the upliftment of all. His story invites us to carry forward that torch of unity and love. In learning about him, may we also learn about the power within ourselves to live nobly and selflessly. The story of Swami Vivekananda is more than a chapter in history. It's a lantern for our own journey. As we've seen, a young man with faith and determination can transform not only himself, but the world around him. Now, it's your turn to take these lessons of courage, empathy, and purpose into your own life. Let his example inspire you to face your challenges boldly and to speak and act with kindness. If this narrative touched your heart or taught you something new, I invite you to stay connected with us. Subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories and lessons from great lives. Join our community of English learners and self-improvement seekers. Together, we grow stronger. And don't forget to download our free English ebooks packed with useful words and phrases, and join our free live classes to keep improving your English with support, practice, and community. Thank you for watching and listening. Keep learning, keep striving, and remember the words of Swami Vivekananda. Arise, awake, and stop, not till the goal is reached. Until next time, stay inspired and take care.
Join our global community of English learners, absolutely free. Download video transcripts, listen offline, start our beginner course, and join live classes with certified teachers. Access over 1,000 resources to improve your English faster. Everything's in one place. community.englishspeeches.ca. Let's speak English together.